6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical. So step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.
Hello, welcome to Sunday Night Stories and 6 Feet Apart Productions. My name is Regina Stoops. I'm happy to be your MC tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Tonight, we're excited to bring you our third Story Slam, where you, the audience, get to vote, and we'll give you the information on how to do that a little bit later. You'll be doing that on our website. Now, our show streams live on YouTube. You probably know that because you're watching it on YouTube right now. But tonight, we're very excited because we also have some fans in the Zoom room with the performers. We've got some fans from our loyal fan club. They got a backstage pass, and these folks get to be where the magic happens. So I'd like to bring out our audience. Let's cut to the audience and everybody say, hey.
Hey!
Hey!
Hi.
All right, all right, all right. So glad to have an audience. Yay. Now, tonight's theme is True Grit, and by True Grit, I don't mean the classic cowboy movie or the remake of the classic cowboy movie. I mean perseverance, pushing through, getting it done. When the going gets tough, the tough tell stories. Now, this is a little different than being in person at a show. We know that, but you're getting used to this, so you know what to do. So get comfortable, grab a drink, put your feet up, take your pants off, whatever you need to do. And enjoy the show. Now, we promise there won't be any X-rated language, but we really can't guarantee that it's going to be, kid-friendly. So just keep that in mind. But relax, get ready for a great show. Our first storyteller is the curator of outspoken LGBTQ stories at Sidetrack and a two-time winner of the Moth Grand Slam. He's based out of Chicago. Yay, the Windy City, my home spot. He is a producer at Story Jam and a member of the collective Drinkers with Writing Problems, which I think just would be the best bumper sticker ever. So please, please give a warm virtual welcome to Archie Jamjan.
Hi, everyone. Am I good? Okay. As I flipped through my CD case, I asked my 19-year-old self, which CD should you choose for your first job as a stripper? After a few more puffs of my cigarette, I narrowed my choice down to Little Kim's Hardcore and Foxy Brown's Il Nana. In the late 90s and early aughts, Foxy Brown and Lil' Kim dominated the female hip-hop scene with sexual lyrics that represented freedom and power to me. Kim was killing Foxy, but I've always loved the underdog. So I decided Foxy and I were one, and she would be the soundtrack to my first job as a stripper. Stripper Daddy found me on Manhunt, a gay dating site that I basically used as a Grubhub for cock. Stripper Daddy said he was an A&R rep from the music industry, and he lived in one of those high-rises that line the Gold Coast. The first message he sent me read, Archie, I find Asian boys very attractive, and I have a proposition for you. Have you ever stripped for money before? I love to cover boys in dollar bills. It's funny how my current self cringes at that message, but my 19-year-old self was like, oh my God, someone thinks I'm pretty enough to be a stripper? I had a strange self-confidence. Though I thought highly of my physical self, I knew the gay world thought little of me because all Asians are bottoms of small dicks who smell like fermentation. At least that's what people would say to my face. Also, there were no Asian porn stars or strippers when I was growing up. So on that day, when Stripper Daddy gave me a chance to be a stripper, I felt like I could break a glass ceiling. But who was I being chosen by? I looked at Stripper Daddy's pictures and they weren't atrocious. He was a big 6'4" and 250 pounds, and that can always be fun. But he was definitely a daddy, not a DILF. Okay, Stripper Daddy wasn't someone I was attracted to, but I wasn't looking to date Stripper Daddy, nor was I going to have sex with Stripper Daddy. I was just going to strip for Stripper Daddy. And Stripper Daddy had very detailed instructions about what was going to happen. All I had to do was have the following outfit ready: my street clothes, then underneath that some gym clothes, and finally a jockstrap. All I'd have to do was dance and gyrate over him while he lay naked on the floor and got himself off. It usually took half an hour, no more than an hour, he said, and I would make $100. I tossed the idea around in my head, but I always knew I was going to do it because ever since I saw my first porn when I was 7, I've secretly fantasized about being a sex worker. Now, fantasize is a key word here because even when I was younger, I knew that my fantasy career of going into the office for an orgy was very different from the real life consequences of monetizing your sexuality. But this seemed like a chance to peek into that world, and I was 19 years old, which meant I was really good at making horrible decisions. My mother was like, be a doctor. My dad was like, be a lawyer. And I was like, no, I'm gonna be a hoe. I walked into Stripper Daddy's building so nervous, I nearly wrote down stripper when the doorman asked me to sign in. I rode a mirrored elevator to the 14th floor and walked through a remodeled hallway. Upon opening Stripper Daddy's door, I cringed at his face. Then I saw framed records on the wall, and I suddenly felt relieved that Stripper Daddy really was an A&R executive. High-rise check, A&R job check, everything's gonna be fine. And then it was time to get to work. As he said he would, Stripper Daddy took off his clothes and lied on the floor. I put Il Nana into his stereo. Now, like any child of a dragon mother, I had thoroughly practiced for this job, which mostly involved me watching showgirls and pretending to be Jessie Spano. But I had not anticipated everything. At home, I had only practiced for a few minutes at a time, and now I had a whole CD to get through. I was down to my jockstrap in less than 10 minutes and was beginning to worry that my moves might become boring. Then I looked at Stripper Daddy's face. He was so happy. And I was like, oh my God, do I have a gift? He oohed and awed while throwing money at me. And when the CD ended, I hopped up from my cowgirl position and smiled. That was fun. We're not done yet. Oh, do you want me to start the CD again? You need to get me off. Now my current self is like, Archie, you were so naive. But my 19-year-old self was scrambling through my memory for that file of that conversation. When did he say that? You didn't say I had to do that. Yes, I did. Of course I did. Stripper Daddy was angry now. Angry the way men can be when you're standing between them and their ejaculation. Come on, you fucking said you'd do this. In my head, I could hear Foxy and Kim telling me what to do. It was time to get gangster. I wish I had done that. Something even remotely close. But sometimes I just do whatever it takes to calm people down. And fearful of his 6-foot reaction and inclined to please someone who just gave me $100, I grabbed his dick and jerked it. And then I felt his palm on the back of my head. I remember when it hit my tongue. The next minute and a half felt longer than the whole CD. Stripper Daddy came, I wiped my mouth, I picked up the crumpled money, I got dressed and left. I'm sure he said some words. Afterwards, I rode a slow elevator down. I counted up the bills, $84. I hadn't even been fully paid. I was the worst sex worker in the world. The elevator doors opened and I felt like the shit people scrape from their shoes. And I lived the next few years like that's what I was. But if I could have told my 19-year-old self anything, it'd be this. It's okay that you were the worst sex worker in the world. Not everyone has that grit, and you will figure you out. In times like this, go to your family. Go to the people who will let love heal you no matter how gutterbug you feel about yourself. Because Archie, the best of you, is bigger than you can imagine. And one day you'll be able to laugh at 95% of this story because you will have learned that horrible people exist. And even good people do horrible things. And you don't necessarily need to grow harder armor. You just need a stronger spine, an inflamed heart. And that other 5%, my dear Archie, that was not your fault. Thank you.
Hey! Woo!
Yay!
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Archie, for that story. Thank you for your true grit. Thank you for taking us through that. Little known fact, I had a very short career as a stripper. I still have the pole. And well, it wasn't really that good of a career, I have to say. I mean, my stripper name was the Lesbian Librarian, so it didn't really generate a lot of energy. And I don't know if you know, but you can generate your stripper name if you use your pet and the name of the street you grew up on. So mine would actually be Buffy Rustin, which probably would have been better than the Lesbian Librarian. So I'd like everybody who's watching to figure out what your stripper name is and put it in the public chat on YouTube so we can see what we have out there. Archie, thank you again. And our next storyteller is a public speaker and storyteller, nationally acclaimed communications coach based out of San Jose. She currently serves as lead instructor with The Moth and was featured amongst some of the nation's top change makers at TED at NYC. Please give a virtual audience welcome to Dawn Fraser.
Hello, hello, hello. First off, Archie, that was amazing. Stripper Mama Frizzle over here, I guess is the name that I'll be going with for tonight. So true grit, y'all. The year was 1989. I was about 11 years old, and my parents come to me telling me that I am going to have a new sister. Now, not a new biological sister, because my twin brother and I were already the youngest of four. Instead, we're actually going to have a foreign exchange sister, and her name is Kyoko. Kyoko was going to be coming all the way from Japan to live with our family, and I was amped because for the first time in a long time, I was going to have another sister. My sister, my older sister, my biological sister, was off at UCLA. Just me and my twin brother in California. And I was really excited about the prospect of meeting Kyoko. So the day comes, she shows up at our doorstep and she starts introducing herself. And right away, I feel like this awesome kind of connection. I don't know what it is, but there's kind of this connection between me and Kyoko. She starts teaching me about Japan. She starts teaching me words, arigato, and how the people live. And I'm so enamored by everything that Kyoko and I do. Around the same time, my family is from Trinidad and Tobago. So around the same time, my parents became citizens of the United States. And one day when we were all just kind of hanging out, they turned to me and they asked, I wonder if Kyoko wanted like an American family when she came to the States. And I said, we are American. And they're like, yeah, but we're like first generation, we're immigrant American, we're Trinidadian American, they talk with an accent that kind of sound a little bit like this, right? And so people sometimes wonder, are we speaking English or not, right? Yes, it is English, but it's not traditional Western English. And I thought about it and I wondered, maybe Kyoko did want to be with a traditional white family, a traditional American family. And it's got me kind of bummed because maybe the experience that we were providing for her wasn't really authentic. Maybe it wasn't really truly American. But I just let the idea slide. And I kept on trying to be the best host sister that I could for Kyoko. And as I got older, I started realizing that this was cool. This is what I wanted to do. Like my parents had immigrated to this country, but she by choice came to this country and she was traveling and she was meeting all these people and doing all these cool things. And so when she left about 3 weeks later, I was just so teary. I just teared up and was crying and hanging on to her and I just didn't want her to go. But lo and behold, she did. She had to go back to her country and I had to go back to living my own reality. But something about her experience had a flash in me. there was this desire to travel. And I decided I was going to be like Kyoko. I was going to go and travel the world. And so as soon as I turned 18 years old, I started applying for jobs, any job that I could that was outside the country. Lo and behold, I hit upon this ad, National Geographic Student Travelers. And I was like, yes, perfect. I applied for the job. I would be going to Costa Rica. I'd be going to all these different countries, working with youth, teaching them leadership development, which was my jam. But of course, I did not get the job. They said, Dawn, you know, we really appreciate your passion. We appreciate your vigor, but you do not have the qualifications. So I put my dream of traveling off to the side. Until about 2 weeks later, I get an email from National Geographic and they're like, actually, we do have a job that you would be qualified for. Right away, I perk up and I'm like, okay, what's the job? And they say, travel guide escort. I was like, what is a travel guide escort? Literally, they want me to travel with 30 high schoolers from Los Angeles to a certain destination and then just leave them there. But I was like, but wait, what do I do when I actually get to the destination? They're like, well, it's up to you. You can do whatever the hell you want. So I was like, well, where do you want me to go? And they said, Beijing. I said, you want me to fly with 30 adolescents from Los Angeles to Beijing, and then you're just gonna leave me there? They said, yeah. I was like, bet, sign me up, let's go. So next thing you know, I am on a plane with 30 teenagers flying from Los Angeles to China. And everybody is like super excited because I'm finally getting the chance to get out of the country. I get to China, and the first thing that I do when I get there is I buy the first ticket I can to Japan, because that's really all I know about Asia is my Japanese, you know, foreign exchange sister that came to visit us. And all I really want to do at this moment is to find her, because I'm finally traveling and I'm finally getting the chance to actually let her know how much of an influence she's been on my life. So I call up my mom. I'm like, Mom, I need Kyoko's information from 1989. And she pulls up the one piece of paper that I have that has her information. For those of you who are on video, this is it right here. This was her application when she was a foreign exchange student coming to the United States. You can see the majority of the application is in Japanese, but there are a couple of parts on the application that have a phone number. So my first destination, as soon as I get to Japan, Tokyo, I start asking people, can you see if you can look up this phone number for this woman that I'm trying to find? They start calling. No luck. I try again in the evening. No luck. I'm in Tokyo for about 3 days before I have to go further south. My goal is to try and go to every single part of Japan from north to south, seeing if I can find my long lost foreign exchange sister. Tokyo is a bust. I can't get any luck. I can't even get a dial tone. I finally go down to this area called Nara. I'm having a wonderful time. I'm getting to know Japanese culture, Japanese food, but I'm really longing to meet with Kyoko. We try the second phone number on the list. The second phone number ends up being her dormitory at her women's college from 1989. Another bust. But I keep on trying, I keep calling, I keep trying to see if there's anything on this form that can get me through. On my 7th day in Japan, I finally get through to somebody. I don't know who it is because I'm talking to a translator behind a desk and the translator is talking on the phone. And all I know is that they've gotten through to somebody, but I don't know who it is. They hang up the phone. I'm like, wait, what's going on? What's going on? And they say, well, we got in touch with a man that says that Kyoko is not this number, but that he might be able to help you. And I said, so they know who she is. They said, yeah, but they weren't very helpful. They just gave me another number. And so I was like, okay, well, let's try this other number. But now we're 7 days into my journey and I'm starting to lose time because I have to take these kids from China back to the United States in about another 7 days. And time is of the essence. And now I'll go from Nara down to Hiroshima. And Hiroshima is where I learned about the bombings I learn about the tragedy. I learn about the internment of the Japanese Americans in the United States. And once again, I start to see that my story of being an immigrant, our story of being people first generation to the United States, actually overlapped so much more with Kyoko's story and those of her people than I ever realized. And now I really, really, really want to get in touch with her. So now I'm in Hiroshima, the southernmost part of the country. I one more time try and get through any type of phone number that I can. And this phone number does lead to somebody who answers the phone. I'm looking at the translator, trying to ask, like, what's going on? What's going on? And she says, well, you got in touch with her son. I was like, she has a son. She has a son? He's like, yes. And the son says to call back later tonight when she'll be home. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like looking at my clock, like this is, I don't know where in the country she is. I just know I have a phone number. I know I have her son. I'm gonna try one more time, but I can't get in touch with her that night. It just doesn't work. The following day, I finally call, and this time I get a man who answers the phone. And I'm talking to the translator, and the man says, well, this is Kyoko's father, but I don't know who you are. And so I'm not gonna give you the correct number to talk to her because I don't know who you are. And now I'm angry. Now I'm just aggravated because I've been spending my entire week and a half trying to hunt down this woman. I finally know that I have her family and the father is not giving me the phone number. And so I say, look, dude, tell this man, now I'm just mad. I'm like, tell this man that his daughter, Kyoko, lived with a Black family in 1989 in California. There ain't no other person who's gonna know that. A Caribbean family in California. You tell him that. And you tell him that this woman came all the way from the United States to find his daughter, damn it. I want to speak with Kyoko. And then finally, the father says, oh yeah, okay, yeah, she did travel to the United States in 1989 and stayed with some random Black family. Okay. And he gives the receptionist the phone number. She hangs up, we immediately call the right phone number. Kyoko answers the phone. And I am just bawling. I'm just bawling and bawling. I can't get out any type of words. The woman behind the counter starts handing me handkerchiefs because she knows what's going on. She feels like she's been part of this journey all along. And I want to tell her how much this has meant to me, how much this has been. And I was like, Kyoko, like, where do you live? I want to be able to see you. And she said, I'm about an hour and a half from where you're at now. Do you have time to come see me? I look at my calendar and I know that I have to get back to Tokyo before getting back to Beijing to pick up the kids that I have to escort. And unfortunately, the answer is no. I don't have time to go see her. I don't have time to go see the 3 kids that she's had in the years. I don't have time to tell her how much her life meant to me, how much it meant to me to just have a sister when I was 11 years old in California, not really feeling like an American. But through the tears, I know that she feels me. I know that we're connected. And when I go back to Tokyo the following day with Kyoko's 3 kids' pictures on my phone, I know that, you know what? I didn't get a chance to see her, but at least she knows how much she meant to me. Thank you.
Yay.
Oh, yay!
Great story.
Yay, thank you, Dawn, for that story. That was wonderful. We were there with you every step of the way to China, Japan. I really was there wondering if you were gonna get to meet her, and I'm so glad you at least got to get in contact with her, and I hope you're still in contact with her. I kind of want to know what the rest of the story is, but I commend you for your perseverance. Now, our next storyteller is a native New Yorker who now does his business exclusively in the town, and he's a Puerto Rican sports playing, sweet talking educator, and he loves to have a good time, and he loves to share with the people. So please give a warm audience and virtual welcome to Chris Williams.
Hello. I hope you all can hear me all right. Shout out to everyone on YouTube right now. You know, being a brown person in the United States right now, you know, I feel like I've dealt with my share of struggle, my share of perseverance. But in thinking about the theme for this evening, I couldn't help but think about what was going on when I was in high school. Now, I grew up with a single mother. I grew up in the projects of Harlem, New York, which wasn't the worst thing in the world. However, it didn't give you everything you wanted. You know, moving to California now, many years later, I see what I was missing. But at the time, you know, I thought that concrete jungle was everything that I needed. Nothing really went my way. However, the things that did go my way went really far. I went to Catholic school, but it was still in my neighborhood. Like, it was right across the street. My entire family had gone there. My sister went there after me. And I started to get an academic scholarship after third grade. And that really carried me. So when I got to high school, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be. I just knew the goal was to just get out of my situation. There had to be something more. Throughout high school, I went through a bunch of different mishaps, some caused by nature, some caused by nurture, and some caused by absolute BS. I was 15 when 9/11 happened, and I was a mile away. My school went into lockdown. It was a crazy time. Didn't know what would be the future at all. But college wasn't something that was on my mind. I knew that if I wanted my family to be successful, you just got to make money. And that just means hustling, however that looks to you. However, I was a goody two shoes. I mentioned earlier that things went my way. I was protected in a way because I was very skinny and wore glasses and actually really liked school. I was part of a church too. So that just kind of shaped how I viewed the world. So a lot of people in my neighborhood would call me church boy or school boy. And even though they made fun of me and teased me for many years, they knew that I had something and that I wanted to be more than what my situation was. You know, my mother told me that we couldn't afford college. My church told me that I should stay and just become a youth pastor. I didn't need college. My friends told me I'd be a sellout. I'd betray the hood if I went to school. I had a lot on my mind. I didn't realize at the time that nobody else in my family had a college degree. I didn't realize at the time that the way people got out of their circumstance was through things I didn't really appreciate or things that I didn't really want to go through myself. My mother had a great work ethic, and she knew that education was the key, but she also understood the reality of our situation. It wasn't until I got accepted into college where it became real. I'd applied 12 different schools, not knowing what I wanted, feeling the pull of just like staying put, working, figuring it out, hustling. To figuring out that education was actually the key for me. Now, I made a lot of mistakes before, during, and after college. But making that choice, I knew I was making a choice that was going to transform my family situation. Unfortunately, my mother passed away a few years ago, and she was able to see me walk across that stage. It was just for that moment, you know? Sometimes it means nothing, and sometimes it means everything. But for the most part, I'm glad I did it. because I wouldn't be where I am now. Thank you.
Woo!
Happy birthday!
And happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Chris, thank you so much. Congratulations on the college. That was a wonderful story. And yes, we're so glad that you did it because it means you're where you are now and you're with us. So we're very happy about that. And by the way, everyone out there, I don't know if you know, it's Chris's birthday. So we want to party like it's Chris's birthday. So let's have another drink. Let's shake it off. Let's party, put on some music to enjoy the rest of the show too, and put out some birthday love to Chris. Chris, thank you. All right, we're gonna keep our birthday party, graduation, celebration, and everything else going. Our next storyteller is an actor, singer, writer, director, and teaching artist based in Oakland. Her career began in her native Kenya, where she performed with the Kenya National Theater and also Voice of Kenya Radio. And she sang jingles, commercial jingles. But tonight she's going to be telling the story for us. And please give another warm welcome to Clara Kamunde.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Thank you. Happy birthday. Congratulations, Chris. And also, Claire, thank you for your persistence and getting me onto this show. Can you imagine peeing with your foot in that position? He asked. My eyelids clapped open and shut. They were trying to blink erase the very graphic cartoon HRH, the Prince of Wales, has seared onto my mental imagery. This was the third shocking thing he'd said to me in 45 minutes. And so I was feeling just a little heady, and I said to myself, fuck it, forget the protocol. I'll ask him anyway, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I was in high school in Canada, and it just so happened that the Prince of Wales was the president of this conglomeration of schools, and he was coming to visit our school, and there was just like mayhem. But here is where third world naivete collides with or against the fetishism, the excessive regard in the West for a bunch of people with a hereditary lifetime of unearned privilege. I went up and I asked the development director, I'd like to invite Prince Charles to my dorm for wine and cheese with my roommates. Oh, that's not possible, not possible. The protocol, oh, the security, this, that, and the other. As compensation, I was invited to escort the prince around the campus. But before the prince arrived on the campus, we were all told how to behave, what to be. I got special lessons in protocol, how you greet the man, how you do this, that, and the other. But the rest of the school, he was coming to our village for our village meeting, but we were cautioned against asking, I guess, controversial questions. And it just so happened I was with a controversial boyfriend. He was Irish. And the Irish question was one of the ones specifically we were told to shy away from, because his uncle had just been blown up by, you know who, or if you don't, by the IRA. So that was a touchy question, and we were to shy away from it. And so at the village meeting, I'm sitting next to my Irish boyfriend, and I'm saying, Ian, please don't ask any embarrassing questions. I have to meet this guy afterwards and take him around the school. How can I do that? But anyway, Ian asked his question. And he says, monarchies are a symbol set against the democratic and egalitarian principles of a sort of antithesis to the 20th century's great central struggle. How do you feel about being a prince? Uh-oh. I started to slide down in my seat. But His Royal Highness handled it like a pro. Clearly, he was practiced in answering such controversial questions. Village meeting over, I had to meet him in the foyer. And I met him a year or two before his engagement to Diana, when he was still the world's most eligible bachelor, projected as a carbon copy of his alpha male father, an action man, a playboy, a possible replacement for Roger Moore as James Bond. At the very least, I expected someone really tall. He was not very tall. He was indeed quite short. And indeed, really, even though I had seen him just a few minutes before, I was still, you know, in the, I guess, the flush of, oh, His Royal Highness. I'd bought into the hype as well. But when I met him in person in the same room, I was flabbergasted. He was not tall. He had these funny ears, and I was kind of shocked. So I completely forgot all protocol. I was instructed to say, good morning, Your Royal Highness. I could curtsy if I wanted to, or if I didn't want to, I said, certainly not. We kicked the British out of Kenya. I am not curtsying. I am not bowing. But then I also forgot what I was supposed to say. And I just stuck my hand out and I said, hi. That's as far as I got. And he could tell I was really, really uncomfortable. Really nice guy, turns out. He holds out his hand and he says, hello. He makes me comfortable. I take him around the art show. And here's where shock number 2 happens. And I'm showing him around all the products that we have been making in the school. One of them was we were using as a tablecloth. It was a poncho. And I said, well, that's the poncho that Karen Jones from New Zealand made. And he said, that's a poncho? I said, yes. We're just using, you know, the pot is covering the neck opening. Whereupon the Prince of Wales started to regale me with a story about a wedding he'd been to somewhere. I forget if it was in the Caribbean or in Brazil. And he said to me, I danced with the most beautiful negress. And upon which I said, and she was dressed in this fantastic white outfit. And she told me it was a tablecloth. And I said, okay. And when I picked my jaw off the ground, I said, well, let's go to the next part of our agenda, which was the marine biology lab. We walked down to the marine biology lab, and this is where the persistence, never mind, or the never die part comes in of my story, because I had asked to invite him to the dorm room, was told no. But as we are walking around the marine biology lab, we come to a fish tank with sea urchins and whatnot. And, you know, he'd been talking about how wonderful Kenya is and he'd been there and blah, 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 blah. But when we see the sea urchin, he turns to me and he says, the peeing part, right? He says that he had stepped on a sea urchin and he was instructed that the way to get the spikes out of your foot is to pee on it. And that's when he said, can you imagine peeing with your foot in that position? And my jaw dropped for the 3rd time. I picked it up. And that's when I said, God, I'd like to hang out with this guy. So I said, you know, would you like to have wine and cheese in my room with my roommates? And I explained to him that we weren't allowed to. So I broke protocol and asked him, and he said, well, I'll find out about that. So tour finished, I go to lunch, and the development director comes and calls me out from my group and he says, we understand that you asked His Royal Highness if he could come to your room for wine and cheese. I said, I did. And he said, you know, that's a breach of protocol. I said, well, you know, at that time we were really good friends. We were hanging out. So he says, but we've thought about this and we have said that he has invited you to his guest house and you can bring 8 of your friends or 9 of my friends. So we go and we have wine and cheese with His Royal Highness later that evening. And he was a really, really, really lovely person. He told us all about his strained relationship with his parents, his mother being queen, that he was very close to his grandmother, that he hated being labeled the most eligible bachelor and having to live up to an image that had nothing to do with who he was as a human being. And then, of course, I asked him another question, we had to vet our questions prior just to make sure we didn't embarrass him. And I wanted to ask the question, if you weren't Prince of Wales, next in line to the throne of Great Britain, what would you want to do with your life? And again, third world naivete colliding against the fetishism of the excessive regard in the West for a bunch of people with a hereditary lifetime of unearned privilege. I said, it was greeted as an absurd question. How would you ask that question? I said, well, we all have dreams. And I asked my question. And what he said he would have liked to have been, had he not been born the Prince of Wales, is a farmer or an architect. And that's the nitty and the gritty of it, folks. Thank you.
Yay! Terrific.
Nice. Woo! Yay! Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the story about the prince. And who knew that a conversation about sea urchins and peeing in odd positions would lead to cheese and crackers with the Prince of Wales? But funny to find out that he's shorter than you think. I saw him once from a very far distance and he was on a horse with one of those big hats. So he looked pretty large at the time. But thank you. Thank you, Clara, for that story. All right. I do want to tell you that we are going to do our voting after we get to our through our next storyteller. We're going to have a special guest while the voting's happening. So you'll be going to 6feetapartproductions.com. You'll see a picture of the cast and a big sign that says click here to vote. So we appreciate it if you go and you vote. We've gotten some stripper names in the chat, and let's see, Buffy Sharp, that's Stacy's name. JP, Augusta Park Place. I like that, very nice. And Chris Flash 143. I don't know, I like that. That's like either a Twitter handle or a punk band name from about 1978. That's what I'm thinking. That's awesome. Please welcome Flash 143. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just saying. I think you opened for the Ramones. I saw that tour. All right, we are going to keep these things going. And I am really, really thrilled to bring up a gentleman who I have shared the stage with a few times. I've seen him many times, and he is actually designs and builds furniture in an old shop over at Alameda Naval Station. And he specializes in making unique things out of recycled material. And he specializes in also making unique stories out of recycled materials from his life. And his stories have been heard in lumber yards and hardware stores throughout the Bay Area. He has won StorySLAM at the Moth, and he performs all over the Bay Area. So please, a virtual welcome to JP Frary. JP, you're muted.
I love fumbling the mute thing right off the bat. I look like a moron. I just want to say, anybody that had cheese and crackers with Prince Charles is all right by me. And especially putting out there that you kicked the British out of Kenya is also like because I'm Irish all the way, baby. So thank you. I screwed up. I was working in Alaska, working the salmon to pay my way through college. And I bought a ferry ticket because I wanted at the end of my summer to see some of America. And I bought a ferry ticket to take the ferry from Alaska down to Seattle. And then I had planned to take a train or a bus and see some more of the country on my way back to San Francisco. And I mailed too much money home. And when I went to buy the ferry ticket, it cost twice as much as I thought. So I didn't have any money left over. So when I got off the ferry in Seattle, I had no money to buy a bus ticket. This was the 80s. There was nobody who would give you money. There wasn't like an ATM like you think. And all my money was in the mail. So I literally just mailed all the money I'd made home. So I decided to hitchhike from Seattle to San Francisco. And I walked from where the ferry stop is up to where I-5 goes right through downtown Seattle. I put my thumb out, and within 5 minutes, this old Ford station wagon pulled over. There was what I thought was a Mexican family in it. They said, throw your backpack in. I threw my backpack in back, and I got in the back seat with 2 kids, 8, 10 years old. I tried to speak Spanish to the parents because, like a white kid in America, I assumed they didn't speak English. It turns out they didn't speak Spanish. The daughter turned and she said in English, they don't speak Spanish. We're from Guatemala. They speak a Mayan tongue and a little bit of Spanish. So I'm like, well, I screwed that up already. But it turns out they were just the sweetest family. And they had a little cooler and we made sandwiches. And I found out from talking to the daughter that they were on their way to Eugene where they were going to pick pears. So they were migrant farm workers and they had just been working in Seattle for a restaurant. So now they were on their way in their station wagon to pick pears in Eugene, Oregon. And they would give me a ride all the way to Eugene. And I had the best time with them talking through the daughter. Turns out she only got to go to school every now and then because of the way they moved all the time. But she had workbooks. So she and I in the back seat worked on her times tables because she was that age where she had to work on her times tables. And the mom and dad, though they couldn't understand our banter back and forth, they were so sweet to me and so nice. And we pulled off I-5 in Eugene and I said, thank you. And they tried to give me $10. And the daughter explained that they were so worried about me being alone on the highway that they thought I should have some money. And I tried to explain back that I had money. I just had mailed it home like an idiot and that, no, I didn't need their $10. But I saw this look in the dad's face. And I took that $10 because I knew how happy he was to give it. And what that meant to him, that he could give me $10 so that I had something. Off they went. I'm standing there, I-5, right there in Eugene. 2 hours go by. Nobody stops. In fact, some people throw beer cans at me. And I'm standing there, thumb out. So I write a little sign on a piece of cardboard that says, I have $10 for gas, because somebody just gave me $10. And within a minute, this old Dodge pickup just skids to a stop, backs up to me. There's a couple in front, young couple in their mid-20s. I throw my backpack in back, get in, and it's Peg and Darren. Darren has mutton chops, which in the 80s were not popular anymore. That had kind of gone out. So that was a giveaway that something was up. And Peg was wearing what could best be described as a terry cloth tube top. And that was also a little weird. Didn't kind of fit the time either. But we drive and we're talking, and I think they're a couple, and we're talking, and they say they're on their way to LA for a wedding, and some family wedding, and they both want to go. And so they're just going to drive down to LA for this wedding. And it seems normal and fine. And I'm getting to know them a little bit. They're from Chehalis, Washington. And every time a truck goes by, a big semi, Darren reaches out the window and motions something. And I don't know what it is. I can't see with his hand. And then the truck driver sometimes will just go, I don't know what that is. I don't know what's going on. And then every now and then Peg will lean over and she'll motion something to the truck driver. And the first time a truck driver kind of motions positive back to them We pull off at the next rest stop. Darren gets out, runs over to the truck, and then comes back with some cash. And I'm like, what the F is going on? This is the weirdest. And I asked, I was innocent. I asked, what's going on? And he goes, oh, I deal a little speed to truck drivers on I-5. And I'm like, whoa, all right. I grew up in Mendocino. Little light drug dealing isn't that, far afield from my normal life. Back on the freeway, we're going. And this time, Peg motions to a truck driver and he emphatically says yes. We pull over at the next rest stop. She gets out of the truck, runs over and gets in the truck. And I'm sitting there with Darren and Darren goes, oh, it should be like 15 minutes. And I'm waiting and like, what's going on? And then it dawns on me. Oh, she's a prostitute. Like this is their gig. They drive up and down I-5 and she comes back 15 minutes later, a little disheveled with cash, gets in like nothing happened. And we drive off and they just keep talking about the stuff they want to see in LA. And she's talking about her mom and she wants her little sister, his birthday's coming up. And it is the most normal conversation in the world with two people. And yet I am riding with a drug dealer and a prostitute down I-5. We pull over at 6 rest stops and various transactions happen. And I don't get out of the truck the entire time. I just sit there captive in my lily white life that I've lived so far. I have no idea this is going on in the world. They take me all the way to Sacramento, drop me off, and I decide I have just enough money. I think I can get an Amtrak ticket. I am not getting in another car. The world is just too strange for me. I get on the Amtrak, and there are some college kids sitting across from me, and they are talking about the summer they just spent backpacking across Europe. These are well-to-do college kids. I had no chance to go to Europe to backpack. I had to work to go through college. And one of them says out loud, well, it's really a rite of passage for an American to go to Europe and backpack across Europe. You really don't understand what it's like to be from America if you haven't backpacked across Europe. And I'm sitting there in my seat and I just went, fuck you. Thank you.
Hey, awesome.
Hey, JP.
JP, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for that story. Awesome. A little light drug dealing and prostitution. I like that term, light drug dealing. But thank you. And you're right. Backpacking through Europe, a rite of passage. That's how you learn what it's like to be an American. That's how you learn what it's like to have parents that can afford to send you to Europe with a backpack. Okay, that is our show in terms of our storytellers that you are able to vote on. And so I want all the audience members, YouTube, etc., please go over to 6feetapartproductions.com. Okay, 6feetapartproductions.com. Sorry, we maybe should have gone with the acronym, but we went with the whole thing. So 6feetapartproductions.com and click on the cast picture. It says click here to vote. Please pick your favorite story for the evening. And while you are voting, we have a very special guest, very excited. And he is going to keep us entertained. And I know he can do that. He's wearing one of his fine silk robes. He's a comedian, a storyteller, a rare time actor. His television appearances include Netflix, Oxygen's My Crazy Love, and National Geographic's Brain Games. It's quite an eclectic mix. In 2017, he was named one of Time Out New York's queer comics to watch out for. So watch out for Calvin Cato.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And also a round of applause for all the wonderful stories because it was amazing to hear. I really, really loved it. Also, Regina, I was a little sad. I thought you were going to come out with like a hat made out of amphetamines to keep with the theme, but I guess speed is expensive. You can't just braid all that together. So in addition to storytelling in Amazon Casual Separates, I also do a lot of stand-up comedy. And when you do stand-up comedy, I've been performing since like 2006. So we're talking like Bush the Lesser or Bush the Least, really. But like when you do stand-up, you perform in a lot of very gritty, questionable places. Like I've done shows in like laundromats. I did a show in a barbershop. I once had to do a show standing on a barrel of like in a gay bar. I had to stand on a barrel and perform jokes for guys who kept asking me to take my clothes off. I did not, because back then I had principles, but this time I would do it because I need $50. But I thought my days were behind me. I thought, okay, I've done the wild shows, I've done the crazy shows. I'm gonna do just normal shows from now on. I thought that, but 2016 told me very, very differently. So I get a call from my friend, let's call him Adam. And Adam says, hey, Calvin, would you want to do this show with me? It's a really fun show. It's in Pennsylvania. It's only a 2.5-hour drive away. I live in New York City and I have a car. And so he says, it's just a quick drive, 2.5 hours. Come down, you'll make $100. It's a really fun show. And after the show, there's a bar that's nearby the venue where we can go and get really cheap drinks. And I said, you know what? I mean, I shouldn't be drinking on the road, but like if it's cheap, I was like, sure, I'll come away with $100. I like money. Money's great. I'm going to do this. So Adam decides to bring a friend, Brian, who's also going to perform. Adam is Black, Brian is white. This is very important to the story. So the three of us get in my car and we drive to a city called Easton, Pennsylvania. And Easton, Pennsylvania, I was told, is the birthplace of Crayola crayons. I quickly learned that they did not mean the brown crayons. So I get there and I get to the venue, and the venue is called Mother's Bar. And I walk in and it's literally just a bar, like just flat out a bar. There's like a long train to get to where the like stage area is. And I say stage area very generously because it is literally just a section of floor marked off with painter's tape that is right next to the bathroom. So I'm like, look, I'm not classy. I'm not a big deal. I've been on a television channel under 100. I get it. This is where I deserve to be. I'm decided I'm going to get ready. I'm going to mentally prepare myself to do this show. I notice on the wall that the bar has a sign that says, how certain places say no shirt, no shoes, no service. So this bar had a lot of no's, and it was a lot of coded language. So it literally said no baggy jeans, no do-rags, no plain white t-shirts, no bandanas, no colors. No colors is on the flyer. Now I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. I'm like, I don't know what happened here and like how I got roped into this, but I'm going to keep the faith. I'm a professional. I'm going to assume that these people know what they're doing. I meet the booker of the show, and the booker looks like a very like Metallica roadie. He's full of tattoos. He's got an eyebrow ring. He's got like jet black hair. Booker seems pretty nice. And he goes, hey, this may be a little bit of a weird night, but don't worry. This is going to be super fun. And like, I'm sure the crowd is going to be very excited to have you guys. It's going to be great. And also here's the host. And the host is a man I'll call Tommy. And he looks very, very scraggly. Like I'm talking like Unabomber scraggly, like I was just like, you clearly have not washed your hair with anything better than VO5. I'm very concerned for your health. He looks very scraggly, and he has a flotilla of notes, like literally just like papers that's flying out of a folder. Like literally, I'm talking Unabomber. And the host goes, okay, so how do I host a show? And I said, well, you just go up, you do some jokes, and then you bring up everyone else in succession and try not to mess up their names. And he says, okay, I can do that. I can totally do that. So we have to wait 30 minutes for the chairs to be arranged around the stage area so that we can get the show started. And the show starts, and I notice that the crowd is very white. And I get it. It's Pennsylvania. There are a lot of whites there, but it was literally all white, like so white. Like I thought I fell in a vat of frozen yogurt. Like it was very white. But I was still like, you know what? This is cool. I went to Stuyvesant High School. It was also pretty white there too. I went to Wesleyan. I know how white people do. I'll be fine. So I'm still in my head. I'm trying to get ready. And the host is talking and he goes, I hope you guys aren't a PC audience. And the crowd claps. And then he tells a joke that has the N-word in it, like a full ER N-word. Like he didn't say it with an A at the end, like we were friends. It was very disturbing. Now I'm really starting to process, I think this is not a good gig to be at. I'm starting to get concerned. Then after that joke, his other joke is talking about how all dicks are ugly. And that was just the punchline. That was the beginning. That was the end. That was the teaser. All dicks are ugly. That was his declaration. I felt a little hurt by this, but I was like, look, I don't know what dicks he's been seeing. Okay, maybe he's looking at Pornhub. He's not getting the XTube stuff. Like he's got to do better with his dick viewing. He says that. Then my friend Adam goes up. Again, Adam, black comic. And Adam goes, my dick isn't ugly. And the white crowd goes, we don't want to hear about your dick. After that, Adam's set does not go well at all. They do not like Adam. I know why. It seems very clear as to why they don't like Adam. Like, it's not like there's a mystery. Then Brian goes up and they start to respond to Brian a little bit better. Again, I know why, lack of melanin. So Brian's doing okay. But then a lady from the crowd has to get up, walk past Brian to go to the bathroom, and then walks in front of Brian when she finishes her bathroom visit and takes the microphone from Brian's hand and starts telling street jokes. And I still remember one of the street jokes that she told was, what do you call a woman with no arms and no legs? Carrie. That was the joke. And the white audience really loved it and then did not like any more Brian stuff. Now, at this point, I'm like, this is clearly going off the rails. I'm not sure what's happening. So I asked the booker, I said, hey, this is a really weird show. And this guy is using the N-word. And do I have to give a TED talk? Like I have a PowerPoint in the car just in case. And he goes, the booker goes, I'm sorry. I know that I said it was a weird night. It's a really weird night because there are a lot of white power affiliates in the room. First of all, let's break down the phrase white power affiliate. Please don't add words after white power like that makes it any better or easier to swallow. That's not okay. Like, I wasn't going to be like, white power. They're just an affiliate. They're just playing. Like, that's not how that's going to work at all. And now I have to really process this because I'm like, I am performing for the Diet KKK. This is what my life is now. I can't believe this. It's 2016. What's happening? Obama's president. I now really have to steel myself because I'm like, I'm supposed to go up last. So I'm headlining the show and I have to do 15 minutes, which is a long time to perform for racists when you're Black. Let me tell you, it was rough. I did not like it. I got some of them to laugh. I think that the people who laughed are like probably white power affiliates. Like maybe they were like really like the Crystal Light of the Coca-Cola of the like racism, but they liked me. The other people were not really into it. The show ends and I'm immediately like, we need to go now because I don't want to be around these people anymore. And the booker says, don't worry about it. It'll be okay. The bartender just needs to get the money together. And that's when the head of the white power affiliate group decides to start a fight with said bartender and all hell breaks loose. So literally the bartender takes a pool cue and smashes it across the like guy's face. And now this guy is like cut up and bloody. And I don't know if you know this, but when racists get hurt, they just scream a lot of obscenities. So now he's calling me the N-word. He's calling me the F word. I was like, how did you know? I didn't even say gay material here. It was crazy. He starts yelling and screaming and cursing. And then we have to wait for the police to be called. And the police come, they take statements, they clear everything up. Then the bartender has to clean up all the blood off the floor. And then I finally get paid my $100. And I know what you're thinking. Why didn't you leave, Calvin? I had to stay because I decided to have cable this year. Okay. I was like, Scandal is still on. I wanted to finish the final season. Are Olivia and Fitz going to get together? I had a problem that needed to be solved. So I took this $100. And as we finally get in the car, my friend goes, hey, do you still want to check out that bar across the street with the free drinks? And I said, if you don't get your Black ass in the car, I will leave you here. Okay. I don't care anymore. So the moral of the story is don't go to Easton, Pennsylvania under any circumstances. Thank you very much.
Yay! It's Calvin, really good. Awful, but good.
Yay, Calvin, Calvin. Yay, oh, Calvin. Way to keep your eye on the $100 prize though. And there is nothing worse as a comedian than getting up on stage and having to perform for an audience that really has absolutely nothing in common with you and flat out just doesn't like you at all. But Calvin, you know what? You deserve, I don't want to disappoint you, you know, after JP's story. So, you know, I just want to give you a drink and, you know, I'll take a few of these and stay up later this evening. So thanks, Calvin. Thanks for, I was off, I've been off for a while, but for you, Calvin, I'm going to dive back in because, you know, you're Calvin. All right. So thank you. We're back with the results. I'm going to take us over to my co-producer, Claire, and find out who the winner is. Claire.
Hi, Regina. Thank you. And thank you. Excellent stories tonight. I have to say, all of you were fantastic. Must have been really difficult. I'm really glad that we had the audience voting and not us. So, I will say that it was quite hotly contested and there was 3 people who were very close, but one person came as the winner, and that was the birthday boy, Chris. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you, Chris. So lovely birthday present.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you. Wow. Wow, that's so cool.
All right, thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations, Chris. I want to bring back each of our storytellers because they were all wonderful, and I want to bring them back one at a time. So storytellers, let's give some virtual love, and let's bring back Archie Jamjan. Let's say goodbye to Archie. So storytellers, let's give some virtual love, and let's bring back Archie Jamjan. Let's say goodbye to Archie.
Thank
Archie!
you.
Storytellers, let's give some virtual love, and
All right,
Oh, I'm still on. I don't know.
Thank
All right, somebody has got their show on. All right. All right, next up to the stage. All right, let me bring our next storyteller. Let's give a round for Dawn Fraser.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. This is awesome. Awesome night. Thank you.
All right, Dawn, thank you very much. Thank you. And let's not forget, we've already heard from Chris, but let's not forget the Prince of Wales and the story and the cheese and crackers and Clara Kamunde.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you very much. And then the man with the light drug and the prostitution story, not the sailor story. We'll get that one another day. JP, I'm glad you told that story. Thank you very much. And let's hear it for JP. Frary.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming out or staying in or whatever you did.
All right. And we also want to say a big thank you for our special guest who kept us entertained while we did the voting. That was the best voting I think we're going to have. That was a much better experience. No mail-in ballots. And we're sure it was all legit. All right. Let's say hello and goodbye to Calvin Cato.
Thank you so much for having me. And the stories were amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad I lived.
We're glad you lived to tell that tale, Calvin. All right, and I also want to say a big thank you to our backstage audience. If you want to be in the backstage audience, stay tuned because you will have an opportunity to do that. So again, let's take a look. Audience, let us hear it.
Yay!
Woohoo! All right, please, thank you for coming and join us again in 2 weeks on August 30th. Stay tuned to our Facebook page to find out exactly what we're going to be doing. August 30th, we're actually going to have an authors telling stories. So there'll be authors telling stories. That seems pretty obvious about their books. So stay tuned. More about the info. And thank you very much. Audience members, stick around if you want. We're going to have a little chat. But for the rest of the YouTube land, good night. Thanks for coming. And drive careful.
Thanks. Bye.
Woo! Woo!
Woohoo!
6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I These times are quite historical, so step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.